Okay, quick but important note before we dive in. Everything I am sharing today is my own personal experience. I am not a doctor, I am not a therapist, and none of this is medical advice. Cannabis affects everyone differently depending on body chemistry, dosage, history, and about 1,000 other variables. Please do your own research, talk to a professional if you need to, and make informed choices for your own life. Okay, we good? Cool. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back to Wild Mind, Rooted Heart. I am Christine, and this is the space for the overthinkers, the deep feelers, and the people trying to understand themselves without completely exhausting their nervous systems. And if these conversations have been landing for you, or if you found yourself thinking a little differently, feeling a little more seen, consider following the podcast wherever you listen. I'm building something here for the people who live in the questions, who feel things deeply, and aren't afraid to go there. There is always a seat for you. Full transparency for today, I actually did a little gardening before this one, and I think that's fitting because we're literally talking about it today. No performance, no shame. Just showing up as the whole person I'm asking you to be. Okay, for real. Now today we are talking about cannabis. And I know, for some of you that word alone just activated about 30 years of conditioning. Maybe you tensed up a little. Maybe you thought about someone who told you only losers smoke weed. Maybe you thought about me and whether you should keep listening. Stay, because what I actually want to talk about is the story underneath the substance, the stigma, the shame, the slow, uncomfortable process of unlearning everything you were told about something your body and mind actually needed. Here's where it actually started for me. Not with using it, with watching other people use it. I was always drawn to the stoners, like genuinely. I grew up around the Just Say No era, the after school specials, the whole drug free mythology, and I still found myself gravitating towards those people because they could have a real conversation. They weren't posturing when you smoked with them or just sat near them. Things went deeper. And comparing that to alcohol culture, which I watched take over every social situation, and it was so hit or miss. Sometimes it loosened people up. Sometimes it just amplified whoever was already the loudest in the room. I was curious. I filed that curiosity away for a long time. My curiosity was always, it was from very early on, but I never really was allowed to explore it. And I also, not only was like society telling me no, but my mom had like instilled in us how awful everything was except drinking, because drinking is just so socially accepted. I wonder why. I remember as a teen being friends with a lot of people that would smoke, but I never did it. I remember trying it one time when I was a teenager with two people. I tried it one time and I remember like nothing happened, and I was also kind of like scared, but I also was like, so I don't know, something in me was like, oh, hmm. Like, and then I just stuffed that away for a long time. And it wound up turning, yeah, going through my own journey of like judging and then removing the judgment and just all those things. We'll get into it. Because here's the thing about the conditioning I grew up with, it was not subtle. It was, this makes you a loser, a low life. It will ruin your life, your future, your reputation. Everything about cannabis was framed through shame and fear. And I definitely feel like I absorbed that. I repeated it. I definitely judged people for it while secretly wanting to understand what they were experiencing. So fast forward to actually using it and the discovery that this thing I'd been told was destroying people's lives was helping mine. I live with chronic pain. My brain is also just wired differently, neurodivergent in ways that make the world loud and heavy, and sometimes just a lot. And I found out that cannabis did something nothing else was doing. It turned the volume down to a place where I could actually function, where I could think, where my body could rest instead of brace. That's not escapism, that is medicine. And the fact that I had to argue with myself for years because of everything I'd been taught, that's the part that still gets me. And for anyone who is listening that lives with chronic pain or a neurodivergent nervous system, how often have you been told that your symptoms aren't real enough to need relief? How often have you been handed something pharmaceutical and told to be grateful? What's the difference between medicine that's packaged in a bottle versus medicine that's grown in the ground? But here is where it got complicated because at some point I realized I needed to look at my relationship with it, not because it was hurting me, but because I wanted to know the difference between using something intentionally and leaning on it without awareness. So I pulled back deliberately, not because anyone told me to, just to prove to myself that I could, that I wasn't dependent on it to function. And I did it. I survived without it. And then I had to sit with something uncomfortable. Just because you can suffer through something doesn't mean you should. That is something I've been learning I learned from therapy, and it just keeps coming to me in different ways and different lessons. But that's the recalibration that I had to make. There's a difference between reliance and relationship, between numbing and navigating. I wasn't using it to avoid my life. I was using it to actually show up for it. And once I got clear on that, the shame started to dissolve. I have done this in the past, taken things away to see if I can do without it, just to prove, that I don't need it. I've done it with like food. I've done it with alcohol. I've done it with working out. I've done it with so many different things in so many different ways because I like to make sure that I'm living my life intentionally as often as possible. I used to not take medicine for cramps for my period. Like now I'm popping a Pamprin. Like you best believe I better have that on hand because if not, watch out. I do not let myself suffer anymore to a point, can't baby yourself. Something else I learned, and this is worth saying out loud, cannabis is not a mood changer. It's a mirror. It doesn't create something new. It amplifies what's already there, which means if you're at peace, it can go deeper. If you're anxious, it can go louder. If you haven't dealt with something, it will absolutely surface it in HD and wait for you to catch up. And that's not a warning. That's actually the whole point. The relationship matters more than the substance. Your intention, your environment, your emotional state going in, all of it shapes what you get out. And that taught me so much about self-awareness, almost more than anything else I've done. What I use to slow myself down now that I've kind of gone on this roller coaster of redefining my relationship with cannabis and making sure that I'm not just using it just to use it. Like, obviously, yes, I love to get elevated, be social, have a good time. But 9 times out of 10, I am doing just enough to kind of bring either my nervous system like here so that I can do a nervous system reset, like yoga nidra, do some yoga, go on a walk, make myself dinner, maybe just breathe normally. All of those things. And sometimes I've learned by observing myself and trial and error the times that I need to regulate first because I know that I'm just in a different way at a certain point where I will have to smoke so much that it's like kind of pointless. I like to kind of do it passively, chilly, and like the more you can regulate your nervous system and bring it down, like the better you're going to be able to also enjoy your elevation. And when I do start to slow down, I realize how much I've been holding on to a lot of the time. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm fine, everything's great, this, that. But then because I've skipped doing a nervous system reset, I've kind of not done other things, like the things that slow down, or life just has, I can't always have as much free time and like solo time as I really need, but also like I don't live alone anymore. So that's also something I am working with my nervous system on recalibrate. But yeah, so I will either, depending on if I think that I need help before I can do things. But a lot of times I am smoking after work to keep myself going and giving myself the momentum I need to then also make myself go to bed and relax. I know when I'm using it to try and escape, and I know when I'm using it to better understand. Also, it does not let you escape. So that's a fun game to try and play with yourself. My preferred method of consuming is a dry herb vaporizer. But cannabis really said, I'm not here to change your state. I'm here to show you it in HD. And sometimes I was like, okay, wow, maybe not that much HD. Could we get like a slightly older TV? Like a 2007 plasma? That's enough resolution for today. And here's what I know now that I wish I'd known sooner. It was always medicine. The plant didn't change. My relationship with my own shame changed. And I'm not telling you this is the path for everyone. I'm telling you that my path involved unlearning decades of fear based messaging, sitting with my own hypocrisy, proving something to myself, and eventually landing somewhere that actually felt like integrity, not just compliance. That's a longer road than just saying yes or no, but it's the real one. I know that my journey has been so interesting with this. I've had the most amazing times of my life, and I've had a couple of times that were, a little crazy. The first time, well, I should say, a couple of things helped open me more to it and like opened the door to exploring this relationship and re-navigating it was my mother was going to the doctor for pain. She had, just her own things. And so, and a lot of mental health disorders. So they were trying to get her on less medication and they recommended that she use cannabis. And I remember she was like so nervous and I was just like, who cares? Just do it. I've always kind of been that way, like going against the grain. So it's ironic that I'm like the hippie child of life. I was like, just do it. Like if it's going to help you, try it. And she did. And I remember trying a tincture and I slept so good. And I was like, and I didn't even realize it in like as much then as I do now, where I'm like, wait, that did help my pain, which is crazy. Learning. And then I'm like, I love learning about things. So also, my last relationship, he felt so bad for how much pain that I get in when I have a flare up. Like it's just not, if you know, you know. That's all I got to say. But he felt really bad and was like, I just want to help you. So had a capsule that was like way too strong, right? For someone who's never used it really. So he gives me the capsule. And I'm telling you, we went to dinner. I took it like at the end of dinner when we had to stop at Walmart. And I was like, oh my God, it's kicking in. And I started getting really anxious and paranoid because I didn't know what to expect. That's what I learned too, is like, I think that's what a lot of people, I think that's what can cause people to have a lot of anxiety. Obviously, if you're already anxious, it's going to make it worse. And looking back now, I was anxious. And yeah, all the things that I was feeling did come up. Now that I'm talking about this out loud for the first time, really, all of these feelings that I had going on then being triggered in just all these different ways came up. And I felt like Alice in Wonderland. That's the only way I could explain it to anyone that made sense. It was like I was falling down a rabbit hole or something. And all I'm seeing are all these different flashes and moments, like horrific, just crazy things that I'd like gone through in my life. And so now that I'm looking back again, I'm like that I lived through or survived or whatever, like however you want to word it. And like, what was I doing? And I don't even know. I just got all these different messages, but I was terrified. I was like spinning. I was nauseous. And I was like, I'm never touching that again. That's horrible. Cut to a couple years later. One of my siblings is like opening up to doing it because in their relationship, he had done it. They were whatever, like, working through their things, whatever. So she starts being open to it and like says, no, it's not bad. Like it's this, that, like it helps this. And she also suffers from her own autoimmune conditions and understands pain. And like, so she was like, I think it would help you. And it's like so fun. And you just get giggly and yada, yada. So she comes, I try it. And then I was like trying it because I was still friends with my ex at the time. We weren't still together, but we like were friends, I believe. I don't know. The timeline's crazy. COVID messed us all up. I don't know what day it is ever. And 'cause what is time? But that's a conversation for another time. Yeah. So I try it, and then I go and learn. I'm, like, watching I would just garden and watch documentaries and research things, and I learned so much about it. And then if you didn't know my last episode, I talk about microdosing mushrooms, and in the midst of all of this, they are both plant medicines, and so obviously they would be, like, interconnected. So I wound up watching documentaries on mushrooms and just all these things, and it took me down the whole I read so many books on healing, I read books on trauma, I read books on nervous system, I was working from home at the time as well, so I would put things on and, like, have it in the background in between, like, my day, and I just had a lot of time on my hands, and so I learned and sat with myself really with, like, both of these plants, like, I really sat with myself, I reflected, I connected, I I really sat with my shadow self, if you wanna phrase it like that. I did the work. I didn't journal about it, and I know a lot of people do that and say that. I kind of more video recorded it. I don't post everything that I record myself saying, but that just works better for me currently, even though it's killing all my storage everywhere. But I wanna get back into journaling. I do occasionally. That's another block I'm working through. All things in time. So yeah, I just redefine and then throughout that I redefined my relationship. I would find times where I was like, "Oh, I just wanna smoke," like just to calm myself down. And I was like, I don't love that because just no matter what, I wanna be able to enjoy the plant, right? Like I don't wanna have learning myself and how I look at things and how I operate. I don't want to use it with that kind of feeling associated with it if I can help. Sometimes I am, then I'm like, "Oh, wait, what was I even mad about?" Like, "Huh?" 'Cause it helps me calm down. Also with my nervous system, with neurodivergence, with just being a highly sensitive person. In human design, I am a projector, so I'm also more susceptible to people's energy and everything. It just helps me stay aware and be aware in a relaxed way. So I also if you've heard my past episodes, I briefly mention how I have CPTSD and I PTSD. So little triggers, like sometimes I won't notice because they're not always obvious, but other times if they are and I know and I'm like whatever. This just again helps me bring it down so that I can use my tools and still appreciate the plant and still have it work for me and still have it feel good, I guess. Because I know how my relationship used to be with alcohol, and I don't want that with this plant because it helps me so much to just keep going, to reflect, to give me energy. I like that I study the strains. Like I know that it can't give you 100% of an answer, but briefly read people's reviews. I pay attention to the terpenes that are in them. And I know that it goes deeper than that, but that's too much for me right now. It's already overwhelming doing it the way it's in depth as I currently do sometimes. But I do also love just picking a something that smells good or sounds good and just sending it. I don't focus on, highest THC content because it's too strong right now, dude. I wanna, enjoy it, and, I tell people all the time, I enjoy the process of smoking. I enjoy grinding it up for myself and putting it in there and getting it and, smelling it, and that's actually one thing I am grateful for, who I wound up learning to smoke with and, learned about it because I also got to be, a little bougie at first. I didn't have to struggle like my friend who every time he comes home still uses a soda can. No reason. He doesn't need to, but he does. Just nostalgia, I think. And yeah, I just got to learn about it and do it in a healthier way all around. You know, I love it. I love it. And I will say when I first got high, I was big smile on my face. And I was just like, this is a feeling, one of the feelings I have been searching for my whole life. Like this feeling. It's like my nervous system just could breathe. It was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be off. And when I do both, because I do like to take I do like to do the plants together, and just about every time, especially when I microdose, I'm just like, that's right. I'm just alive on Earth. I'm just a human here living, learning, experiencing, and what I choose to also like feed my brain with when I'm elevated and high has an impact as well. Like there's a reason that like meditating while either on psychedelics or after smoking cannabis is like so powerful. Meditating, like doing affirmations, like focusing on an intention. I mean, if you want to add it in there, self-pleasure. With all of these together, that's so powerful. And I just am forever grateful for this plant and my journey with it and the people along the way that have helped me feel safe using it too. Like that's why whenever anyone's interested, and I'm always wanting to help, like be like, "Oh, you're ready? You wanna try it? Okay, come try with me, because I'm gonna do it in a gentle way because I want you to appreciate it. I don't want it to scare you because I was scared, you know what I mean? Like, I was terrified because I mean, I didn't know. Looking back, I think it was a 500 milligram capsule, which is insane, but it makes sense. Because even to this day, I've, like, taken up to 100 milligrams and never felt like that. I remember I was so mad and I was so sad and I was like scared. I was like, what just happened? But something awoken in me when that happened. So I don't know, something unlocked, something unleashed. Maybe that's why, maybe that's the real thing of why it's got to be so stigmatized. Break the stigma. And if this space has been resonating with you, if you've been sitting with things this episode stirred up, you can follow or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching. I'm just building something honest here, and I'm glad you're a part of it. As always, thank you for spending this little pocket of time with me. Take what resonated today and let it settle. Let what landed sink in. And anything that didn't quite fit can rest nearby for now. Sometimes the things we're drawn to shift as we grow. And that's not a loss, it's alignment. Until next time, still here, still soft, still going. Take care of your mind and stay rooted in your heart.